Hello, my friends. I hope you guys are having a great 2019. And I just want to tell you, welcome to another episode of A Taboo Life, where everyone has a story to tell. I'm your host, Drew Franks, or Frank for short, and I want to thank you guys again for listening. Come check out the website, ataboolife.com, where you can read some fantastic short stories, poems, other episodes of the podcast, and some really interesting articles, such as the article that relates to this episode titled Wolverine, Batman, and Spider-Man, the Holy Trinity of Masculinity. Why superheroes help celebrate the nature of masculinity while also addressing its perils. Fantastic article. It has some great reviews on it. It is free on our website, so check out at ataboolife.com. Also, if you guys like the episodes, maybe even love them, show me some love and give me a tip at ataboolife.com. You could call it tip, donation. Only I'm asking for is $1, maybe even $2. Nothing more than price for a cup of coffee. These episodes does take money to make them. I have to travel, I have to look for people too. But I want to keep these shows and the website free from sponsors because I want artistic creativity, and also I don't want somebody telling me who I can interview and what I can say on my show. So if you guys like the episodes, maybe even love them, send me a tip at ataboolife.com. Today's guest is Mr. Badr Milligan. He runs a very interesting podcast titled The Short Box Podcast, where they talk about superheroes, comics, pop culture, and anything fun here in Jacksonville, Florida. I had a great time talking to him. Really interesting geek and nerdy talk about comic books, superheroes, movies, and gets deep towards the end like every episode here. So here's the episode and enjoy it. All right, guys. It's the first episode of the new year, so Happy New Year. Today's episode I'm really excited about. We've been emailing back and forth and texting back and forth, but I'm going to have him introduce himself because I'm afraid I might butcher his name.
My name is Badr Milligan, and that's pronounced like water with a B. Badr.
Yeah, when I saw Badr, I was thinking about, because I like mythology, and you're same thing like comic books.
Yeah.
But Balder,
Balder the Brave from Thor?
Yeah, from Thor.
Yeah.
From Viking mythology.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I saw that name, I was thinking Balder the whole time.
Yeah, when I first was like reading Thor and I saw his name, it stuck out because it sounds so similar.
Yeah. So, you run the Short Box Podcast, which is actually a pretty cool local Jacksonville podcast.
Thank you.
Why don't you explain to everyone?
So the Short Box Podcast is Jacksonville's premier comic book and pop culture podcast. It's run by myself, and my co-hosts include Cesar Cordero, Andrew Torres, Edmund Danzar, and Ashdelani Hoy. And it was actually started by myself, Drew, and our good friend Walter Gant. We've been doing it since 2012. We discuss comic books. We talk about pop culture. We give opinionated discussions. We also do interviews, man. We'll have local Jacksonville, quote-unquote, superheroes on the show, like real-world superheroes, people who are doing really cool stuff.
Really?
Yeah, we've had a lot of... we've had a few interviews, man. We've been able to interview really dope comic book writers and artists that work in the industry, that live here locally, that do independent stuff. We've had a bunch of different local just artists outside of comic book medium on the show. We've had radio personalities. We've had people who throw events, charities. So yeah, we try to champion Jacksonville and the awesome people doing cool stuff as much as we try to highlight and champion comic book and pop culture.
Yeah, which gratefully the comic book and pop culture is actually becoming a bigger thing in the United States. It wasn't like maybe 15 years ago.
No, not at all. Fortunately for us, when we first started the show in 2012, I want to say that was when the Iron Man movie came out, but it was like
I thought it was before that.
See, I'm always terrible with like the releases, but I do know it was like the beginning of the Phase 1 MCU. So it was like a perfect time because that's when like that kind of comic book bubble started to blow up. And I apologize if you hear me stirring my water.
That's okay. We are actually recording in a Badr.
Oh yeah, it's just like I said, just like water would be Badr's
house, and I'm using his equipment, which is actually a pretty nice setup in here. So, but something you said earlier, you said you had superheroes on the show. Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, when I say we've had real, like, you know, what we consider real life superheroes, you know, it's kind of a play on the whole comic book theme, but we've tried to invite people who we feel are trying to take Jacksonville to the next level, or trying to contribute positive things to Jacksonville, or trying to bring an element of comic books or pop culture to Jacksonville. So, like I said, you know, we've had plenty of local independent comic book writers who live here in our own, you know, backyard. And we've just had people who are trying to throw or organize cool events, charities, and communities. You know, we want to put that a spotlight. So we consider them, you know, Jacksonville's real world superheroes.
So you have local heroes, people doing good things for the community. Mm-hmm. Who's someone that stands out to you? Someone that you thought...
You know, one of my favorite interviews, and one of our, like, you know, short box guest alumni, I'm sorry, Al Letson, who is he's a fantastic. He wears many hats. I mean, he is a broadcaster and host for NPR. He's a playwright. Wow. He has his own podcast. It's called Earth Thing Show. He also does an NPR podcast, State of the Union. It's been a while.
I heard of.
Yeah, he does so many things. It's like hard for me to try to keep up. But he's also a comic book writer too. He went through like a DC Comics kind of writing workshop training camp, and we've had him on the show like 3 times. But he's definitely someone that I look up to, and I think a lot of individuals here in the city are proud of. You know, because he's just doing really big things, and you know, we've had him on the show, and we're fortunate enough to call him a friend.
He's His show isn't on HBO. I don't know. I remember seeing his podcast on. They made it into a TV show on HBO, State of the Union.
I could be saying the name completely wrong, but I want to say it was State of the Union or something. So don't quote me. Like I said, he does so much stuff.
But he wears many hats.
Yes, so it's kind of hard. I think sometimes I get the names mixed up, but yeah, he'd be an example of like a real Jacksonville kind of like superhero, you know, a local hero. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So how did you guys get this started? Because it's pretty interesting since you've been around since 2012.
Yeah. So me and Drew, we've been friends since like 2008, 2009. And we both love comic books. That's kind of how our friendship started. And around 2011, 2012, we started working at a local comic shop. And we loved the job, you know. And we weren't even getting paid for it. We would just volunteer our time, work hours, but we'd get paid in like really good store credit, and we get really good discounts. So it would like fulfill our comic book budget, you know, because we don't have to pay for comic books. And we ended up meeting the third co-creator, Walter Gant, through the shop, and we all just kind of kicked off. We liked the same things, we liked the same music, the same type of movies. We loved comic books, and he would come in every week, and we'd talk for hours, sometimes even like past closing. And he was a co-host in another podcast. It was called The Side Hustle. And the host of that show, his name was Scott, had all of the studio equipment in a barn in his backyard. And he offered Walt the chance to, hey, if you ever want to record your own show, feel free to use the equipment. So Walt came to us with, you know, hey, instead of just talking for 2 hours, you know, as you guys are closing down shop, how about we do it in a more formal setting, record these conversations, and see if we can start a podcast. So that was kind of the origin there, man. It was just a hobby that, we said, why not? I mean, the opportunity was there. Why not just get on the mics and record? So, and from there, it's definitely evolved. We've had different co-hosts come on and be a part of the show and leave and whatnot. So it's definitely evolved as the years went by, because there was a period where Walt and Drew both left Jacksonville to pursue new job opportunities. So, I had to bring on different co-hosts, and I wanted to keep the show going because I just had so much fun doing it. And it was kind of like a, in memory of like my friends, who left. Drew actually eventually ended up coming back to Jax. So he's been, getting integrated back into the show too.
So let's talk about some comics, because I was really excited about.
Bring it, man! I bring it.
First off, since today is January 15th, if anyone is an MCU nerd, this morning the Spider-Man Far From Home dropped. So I'm pretty interested about this movie. One thing I was kind of afraid of with the marketing of it or the trailer, I was afraid that it might reveal what happened after Infinity War.
Yeah, and I was so excited watching it. I didn't even think about the tie into Infinity War, because this
will be after.
It wasn't until because we had posted it on our Instagram page for the short box, and a commenter wrote, "I guess we know what happened after Infinity War," and I didn't even think about it, in that light. I was just so happy to kind of see Mysterio and see Spider-Man's new suit and kind of see this premise. So now I'm kind of like trying to crank out some thoughts about, all right, what are some of my theories about what's going on? But
they said that the villains are going to be the Elementals, and I don't remember the Elementals in Spider-Man. Sorry if I keep.
That's good.
Actually, let me. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember the Elementals in Spider-Man, but I know some of the villains in that movie might be, or from the trailer, might be Sandman and
Hydro Man.
And Hydro Man.
Which, I mean, I loved the animated series, so that makes me really happy, because I used to love his character in the cartoon, and I had like several action figures of Hydro Man. And I'm hoping I'm saying the name wrong, but something in the back of my head is like, that's not his name. But Hydro Man.
Was it Hydro? Because I want to say Aquaman for some reason. It's not Aquaman.
Definitely not Aquaman. Yeah, I think it's Hydro. I think I might be trying to.
I think it is Hydro Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited about it. There's a lot of good movies coming out. The Spider-Man movie then this week. Are you a fan of the Unbreakable series? Because Glass is coming out on Friday.
You know what? I didn't. I never watched them when they first came out. I think I was too young. And for the longest time, I just really didn't have a really built out film catalog. Like, I didn't watch a lot of classic movies. And it wasn't until I started the show and eventually got my good friend Cesar Cordero on. He's really big into films, and he's watched hundreds, if not thousands, of movies. So he's kind of like our film buff here, and he's the one that kind of sat me down and made me watch Unbreakable, and then I eventually watching Split. So now he's like, hey, we got to watch Glass together and kind of finish off the trilogy. And I like the movies. I thought they were a pretty cool, unique, and realistic take on superheroes in a more like grounded setting.
Yeah, with M. Night Shyamalan. When the first movie came out, Unbreakable, it didn't do well in the box office, and I remember reading about the drama behind that. Quentin Tarantino actually stood up for that movie and said the studio actually was the one that messed it up. That the marketing should have been as what you just said, that this is a realistic or grounded version of a superhero movie. Yeah. But what would happen if Superman was real and he didn't know he was Superman? But I remember as a kid, I was obsessed with that movie. Like, oh my God, it's coming out! I kept watching the trailers. But it was advertised as kind of like a supernatural movie.
Yeah, and
I think because I think it just came out right after Sixth Sense.
Yeah, because I ended up watching the trailers, and I just didn't get a superhero vibe. It was more, like you said, a thriller or a supernatural movie. But I guess that makes sense with some of that background information.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I was going to ask. What comic books have you read lately? What's some good ones you read lately?
Man, this week is a terrible week for me to answer that. But the last kind of the first comment that kind of comes to mind is the series called Cosmic Ghost Rider. It's being put out by Marvel. Yeah, it's a really wild. It's really fun. It's definitely out there, and it mashes up like a bunch of different elements between like Ghost Rider, Silver Surfer, Thanos, Galactus, even like Mephisto, and it's only a limited series. I think it was like only 4 or 5 issues, but it's written by Donnie Coates, and he's like this kind of new young gun writer for Marvel who's really impressive. So this was kind of a cool Elseworlds kind of story that was outside of like your normal continuity. They are bringing them into the main comic book continuity, but it was just a lot of fun. It was like a really fresh take, and I'm looking out, and I've been a fan of Donnie Coates since some of his indie stuff, so it's kind of cool to see him take these bigger, more iconic licenses and properties and give his twist on things, and I'm down for the ride. So Cosmic Ghost Rider is probably the one that has definitely left a really good impact on me in the last like year.
What's the premise of that? Is it has to do with the Silver Surfer? Because
let me see if I can recall. It's Frank Castle, the Punisher, ends up making a deal with the devil, so he ends up becoming a version of the Ghost Rider, and then Galactus comes to Earth, and to save Earth, he makes a deal with Galactus, and he becomes Galactus's herald. So he's got the power of the Ghost Rider as well as like a Silver Surfer type character. He becomes Galactus's herald, so he's imbued with the power of cosmic. And it just gets kind of wild because him and Galactus end up teaming up to fight Thanos, and it's I think Galactus ends up getting killed or runs away, and now this Ghost Rider Punisher mashup now serves Thanos, and it's all over the place, but it embraces just being like comic book craziness and just goodness. It's really fun.
Yeah. Also, too, like what I noticed when I came in, we talked about it before the podcast. Your love for Daredevil, because you have a couple of statues here, and
I'm a big. I love old DD. I love old Hornhead, man. He's one. Spider-Man's always been, pardon me, my favorite character. I mean, as a kid, and when I got into comic books, that was my character, and he still is. But when I eventually got older and graduated, started college, and joined the military, I just leaned more towards Daredevil because I felt like that was. I mean, it's gonna sound kind of corny, but he was more adult. He kind of fit more of where I was in life. Growing up and just kind of seeing the world for what it was. I kind of took off those, Peter Parker glasses, and Daredevil just appealed to me. I was getting more into the gritty and edgier adult stuff, and DD was just kind of there. Frank Miller, yeah, exactly.
You just mentioned you were in the military.
Yeah.
What branch?
I was in the Air National Guard, so a sub branch of the Air Force.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
8 years. I joined when I was 21. I recently just got out. It was a good 8 years.
Did you go overseas by chance, or?
We did. I did one deployment in my time, but it was definitely nowhere near like the sandbox as some people refer to. It was mainly in Europe, so it was a good. The joke is Air Force deployments are more like vacations, and as much as I hate living up to those stereotypes and those branch jokes, it definitely was nowhere near as challenging or I guess heavy as some of these. When you hear the word deployment and kind of the imagery that comes to mind, it definitely was not that.
Okay.
I would never try to compare, what we did in our mission to some of the, more serious missions that some people, dedicate themselves to.
What was your job?
I held 2 jobs, man. For the first 6-7 years, I was an avionics technician for the F-15s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was really
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. And then the last year or 2 years, I switched over to being a television broadcaster in the public affairs department. And I didn't stay there too long, so I didn't get to fully experience and be immersed in that job. But I got a good little bit of experience.
Man, well, it's so freaking cool, man.
Thank you.
You did airplane mechanics, and then it's actually a big jump. It's actually a big jump from airline mechanics to
big time.
Broadcasting. So, was broadcasting and comic books did they go hand in hand? Did it one push the other when you were in the military?
Not comic books per se, but I mean, I was podcasting when I was in the military, and I mean it's Air National Guard, so I wasn't out Monday through Friday. I was just out there 1 week in a month and the occasional training periods, but I was podcasting, and that helped me get into the broadcasting side for that little bit. So, I mean, I got to learn some things from that side. I got to attribute what I had learned from here, and it was just good kind of growth from there.
What got you so into comic books?
My dad. I mean, he's we've had him on the show a few times. He goes by we call him the Marvel OG because he's just so knowledgeable, and he's been collecting since the 70s.
The original Marvels.
Yeah. So, comic books and cartoons and action figures and all that. I mean, we grew up on that. I used to raid my dad's comic book closet when I wasn't really into it. I just knew they were there, and I'm to answer your question, my dad 100%. He got me into comic books, and then from there, I just kind of really became like a sponge and just tried to absorb a lot.
Do you ever remember your first comic book?
Yes, and normally I have, like I said, I'm terrible with numbers and like kind of time frames, but it was definitely, it might have been like Amazing. If I had my phone on me, I could tell you, but I think it might have been like Amazing Spider-Man 514 or some shit like that. That was, and it was like an Onslaught crossover. It was when the Marvel comic book universe was going through their Onslaught story arc, and he gave me this issue of Spider-Man that was a tie-in to that, and that just kind of blew my mind. It was really dope. I feel like I've bought it so many times. I should know it like the back of my hand, but the cover is always ingrained in my head. So I think I got a few copies around the house.
Well, Onslaught was the
he was the amalgam of Professor X and Magneto.
That's right.
Yeah, he was a badass. Look, I mean, it was the 90s, so I mean, those stories are kind of like cheesy, and they're definitely not great, but it was just badass as a kid. I mean, in playing Marvel vs. Capcom, and he was like the last boss. I mean, character design wise, he was badass. I love Onslaught. He's got a soft spot in my heart. I remember like just bringing those comic books to school with me, I think for sure middle school, and me and my friend would like just spaz out over Onslaught. He was just such a cool, the name Onslaught, he was just edgy,
Then if I remember what he looked like, he was a pretty big character too. He was massive.
Yep, yeah. He was a cool I love Onslaught.
Professor X and Magneto.
Yeah.
What's your take on what's going on with the X-Men movies? Because it seems like they're kind of pushing that back.
I think I have the X-Men movies definitely don't rank too high on my personal list. I love the X-Men though. I mean, the comic books are some of my favorite titles. The animated cartoon. Oh my God, come on! We had so many X-Men figures growing up. I don't think I'm attached to any one X-Men movie like that. I think maybe X-Men 2 comes to mind.
Yeah, that's.
I remember X-Men 1 we had on like bootleg, so I don't think that was the best way to experience the X-Men. Because even though we would rewatch it all the time, and it was like really dark. Yeah, I mean, it was a bootleg movie. Someone brought a camcorder and shit.
Yeah, the old Chinese bootleg movie.
Yeah, so I mean, but I remember just still liking it because of what it meant. It was like, oh man, this is an X-Men movie.
Well, what came out first? X-Men or Spider-Man? X-Men. Yeah, X-Men came out first before the new reboot of Batman Begins. Mm-hmm. And people forget, because we're talking about Iron Man earlier. People kind of forget that it was X-Men and Batman Begins that kind of kicked off so many superhero movies today.
Oh yeah, I mean they definitely helped kick in the door or make it, put it on the radar. I don't think they were like shining examples of what we have today, but they're part of the history.
Yeah, because there were more of a, besides like the Batman, Tim Burton's Batman, because the first two were freaking amazing, but then the last two was just really terrible movies. Then like the whole superhero movie genre kind of ceased, and then it was It was X-Men, Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, and Batman Begins.
Yep.
Because you had these movies that were were artistic. They were basically artistic movies.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what's your take on what's going on with the? Because I've been reading in the news about this lately. About there's a kind of big issue with like social justice warriors and comic books, how they're replacing characters with different minority groups or different sexes. Like Thor was replaced with Jane Foster.
Oh, I love Jane Foster Thor.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with these new legacy characters taking over. I try my best to keep an open mind about the direction that some comic book companies take, you know. I do understand that they are trying. I mean, it's still a business, so they've got to make decisions that will have a long-term impact. You know, they're trying to get new readers on board. They have old readers, you know, already. Yeah. The goal is to try to expand it to
next generation.
Yeah, exactly. So let's introduce characters that look like this next generation that, you know, increase our demographics. I definitely think there's a tactful way of doing it. Some companies have done maybe a poor way of rolling it out, where it's more of an emphasis on, hey, this is diversity for diversity's sakes, rather than like give me a really good story or a good premise or a fleshed out character. There's a good
reason for it.
Yeah. Like I don't want to be shoved, a really preachy book just so you have a new diverse character. I kind of want it to make sense. You know, I want the product to be good. I personally won't complain, but I do think that that's a delicate thing for some people, and I think it's challenging. I know that if I was in their shoes, it'd be, I don't know how I'd go about rolling out a new character besides, you know, what I mentioned, just making a good story.
Well, this happened. Well, it's not a recent thing that's happened, because Captain Marvel originally was a man, was Marvel.
Yeah.
And I think that character went to different variations.
Well, Marvel ended up dying in the Death of Captain Marvel graphic novel that Marvel put out, which was fantastic. That was one hell of a way to kill off a character. And I wasn't around when they introduced Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. So I don't know if there was that same outcry, and if there was, and I can imagine there probably was. So, and you look at it and it's like, well, this happens every couple of years.
I don't think.
Yeah, you can't really make everyone happy. So
yeah, that's true. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I can't really think of that many bad ones. I know a good one was Nick Fury. He went from originally he was a white guy with gray hair.
Yeah.
And then they turned it to Samuel Jackson, and like, wow, that's actually a pretty good.
And I'm like I said, that type of stuff does not bother me. I definitely can tell when they drop the ball in rolling it out or having a character, but I mean that didn't bother me. And with the movies being so big, these companies are focusing on trying to make the comic books match the movies to try to get these new readers on board. But
the thing about
that's delicate.
Well, the thing about that change that happened before the movies. They did because they got Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, okay, I know what you're referencing. They made that was Ultimate Nick Fury.
Yeah,
so
okay.
And that was their way of trying stuff like that, was create a alternate reality universe.
Yeah, that's where they had Thor. That wasn't he. Did not serve you as Asgardian or he was a human.
Yeah. And I love alternate reality stories and stuff like that.
It's a pretty cool way of actually doing a different take on the characters. Like I like the 1602 Marvel what Neil Gaiman did.
Oh yeah. That was
basic 1600s. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I like. Wow, that's actually a pretty cool way of doing that.
And that's how I treat for the most part, all of my comics. You know, I just want a good story. I don't care too much about the continuity because I don't know all the continuity like that, you know? So I try to treat my comic books like its own kind of separate pocket.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not everyone does, and that's fine because you kind of need those champions of story arcs and character continuity and timelines. I do respect that, and I definitely champion that. And that's something for the companies to kind of keep in mind and find that perfect balance.
Yeah, and well, also too, like it gives, because for every generation of writers and comic book artists, like they have their way of expressing what's going on in their generation.
Mm-hmm.
So like someone from the 70s is not going to be a really great writer today, but we could still like respect the 70s. Like, oh man, this is actually a pretty good time to actually read these comics. But like today's comic book artists need a way to express themselves. Mm-hmm. So the whole alternate reality is actually a great way of doing that without hurting the main the main stories.
But I mean, I also think that readers who take it that serious need to ask, what's the end game? Because none of these characters, I don't think, are going to. I think all of these characters will probably outlive most of us. Because I mean, I don't foresee these characters not making these companies money for a while. Mm-hmm. So I think you got to pick and choose your battles. But once again, I think there's a delicate and proper way of doing it. I've seen some companies roll out some characters the right way. I think Captain Marvel, Kamala Khan, is a good example of being able to introduce a new legacy character by still paying respect to everything that came before her. So, like I said, that's for the companies to kind of figure out. But it's never kind of bothered me for the most part.
Yeah. What's your take on DC? Because I have a couple favorite DCs.
But... It took me a while to get into DC because I mean my household was mainly like Marvel heads.
Yeah.
But as I met Drew and met the friends my other friends on the show and through the comic shop, just working there, I got exposed to a lot more. And I'm a fan. I mean, I got a Batman statue over there. He's one of my favorite characters. I love Batman. I really love Superman. And it's great to have competition like that between Marvel, DC, that kind of age-old competition, because it kind of births ingenuity. It pushes writers. So I'm all for DC because they've got stories that like I still hold in high regard.
Yeah. One of my actually favorite characters, and I'm not sure they actually brought him to the DC universe, but he was Vertigo, John Constantine.
Oh, word. Okay, yeah.
Constantine.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever read too much about it. I didn't even watch the show, but he's appeared in a few books that I've read.
Yeah, he's originally he was Alan Moore was the one who created him. He started off in Swamp Thing, and then he moved over to his own series, Hellblazer. But like it's actually a really great character because he's very complicated. He is of course he's an anti-hero. He does some bad shit, but he also does good shit at the same time.
Cool.
But yeah, like his character is becoming more mainstream the more you see him in the Legend that show on CW.
I think it was called
Legends.
Legends of Tomorrow. Yeah, they moved him over there, right?
Yeah, it's still the same actor.
Okay,
which is pretty cool. But yeah, he's one of my favorite ones. Him and Hellboy.
Yeah. And I think last year we did a artist spotlight on Mike Mignola, the creator of Hellboy.
Such a good artist.
And I spent like a month just like absorbing and intaking all the Hellboy I could. And I'm a big fan of Hellboy.
I love I can't read Hellboy if it's drawn by anyone else. Like I got so used to that artwork. It's very pretty.
Yeah, and I was the same way too, but I ended up reading I think it was Hellboy: The Wild Hunt, and the name of the artist escapes me right now. But it wasn't until I finished the book that I realized it was another artist, and I was okay with it because his art was kind of fresh, and I don't mind, good takes on iconic creator tied character like Hellboy. You automatically think Mignola, but I think there's been some good fill-ins too. But I'm the same way. Mignola. I prefer Mignola, but I respect other interpretations.
Yeah, because his drawings are very unique.
Oh, big time! All that like shadows, like his shadow play, like the mood he creates, like it's very kind of gothic.
Yeah, very gothic.
Yeah.
H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, it's like real brood. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it's very beautiful too. Yeah, Hellboy. Yeah, I just had this superhero in the back of my head, and we were talking. I just completely lost it. Spawn. Spawn, because that's what was Spawn's comic book?
It was on Image.
Image, yeah. I haven't read Spawn in a long time. I remember reading it. Like, I think that was my first comic book that was really graphic. Mm-hmm. Reading it, I'm like, man, this is a lot of blood and people be torn apart.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would agree with you. Spawn is just what Todd McFarlane, what Image period did. I think they definitely were the what's the word I want to. They broke down the door for like the edgy comic books. Yeah. Especially, I mean, the 90s were all about edgy comic books, the dark characters and stuff like that. So, I mean, I definitely contribute, Todd McFarlane, Spawn, kind of helping bring that ship of just straight edgy comic books.
They're supposed to be making a
Spawn movie, and I think Jamie Foxx got casted in it.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Well, I read about. I'm hoping it's true, and it's not. They're not going to change it. The company's not going to change it, but what they want to do is actually make it into like a horror movie, like a legit horror movie. I'm like, man, that's actually a good way actually telling that story.
I mean,
not as a superhero movie, but it's like horror.
I mean, if you just look at the premise, if you just look at the elements of what makes Spawn. I mean, it screams horror, you know. Yeah, that only makes sense to go that route.
Yeah. It was supposed to be a ghost story too. Like, what I read is like you're not supposed to see Spawn that much. Like, he's supposed to like actually. What the idea was, like, they were supposed to go take it kind of like how Paranormal Activity was for that type of horror, where you don't really see the creature or the ghosts or demon, but you see what he does after his aftermath.
Okay, wow, that sounds like an interesting premise.
Yeah. Shit. So pop culture wise for Jacksonville, how long have you lived in Jacksonville?
Since 1995.
Okay, so you've been here longer than me. I came here in 1999.
Okay, word.
Yeah. So we've been here for a while. What have you noticed, like big changes you've seen in Jacksonville? Because and I remember it wasn't that much happening here, living here. It was just kind of a boring town.
Well, let me figure out how I want to word this. I definitely wasn't out in these streets, as the Joe Budden podcast would say, at a young age. I mean, I didn't want to say sheltered, but I mean, I wasn't out really exploring the city until much later. So I can't comment on what it was like before I was 22 or had a car or could drink. But at least what I've noticed since starting this podcast is that there is more communities out there. And when I say communities, I mean like the video game community. Like, there's a presence there with Gam and Ryan Paul Thompson. There's definitely a comic book community here. There's definitely an art scene out here. So
yeah, that's growing too.
I definitely feel like these niche groups are starting to unite better and just organize around one another, whether that's to throw events or just kind of meetups or just various other activities. I'm definitely seeing more of a stronger community aspect in these niche groups.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm starting to notice too. Since I started doing this podcast and writing articles, it's a good thing too, because like I said, I never really seen that before here in Jacksonville. It was like anyone who doesn't live in Jacksonville, I would say around 2000, maybe 2008, 2009, when things started actually growing out here. Mm-hmm. But before that, like, only thing you did was either you get drunk at the beaches or downtown, and that's it.
And I mean, I grew up on the west side of Jax, so I didn't really know about or explore these other parts of Jax till much later. So I don't know what that kind of party vibe or scene was. I don't have anything to really compare it. I just have noticed that there's more to do. There's more going on. That old kind of saying of like, there's nothing to do in Jax. I definitely don't believe that anymore.
Yeah, it's changed.
Some weekends, like, there's just too much going on. Like, there's I get these invites for these things that I just can't make it all at once. So that's a good problem to have. So like you said, I definitely have seen more things come to Jax, and whether that be concerts, art events, or just like
farmers markets.
Exactly,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's
some nice farmers markets around here.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more going on, and I'm 100% for that.
Yeah, which is great because like we are the largest city in the United States.
Yeah, landmass wise, right?
Landmass wise, and it's kind of before it was kind of a waste. Like, well, we got so much land and so much.
Yeah, there just wasn't anything to fill in that land, right? So now you're starting to see more of these like areas pop up, you know, like these bubbles and these sides of town like start progressing.
Yeah.
Before it was just like South Side was kind of like your.
Just the mall, Avenues Mall.
Well, I'm thinking like as far as where the young quote unquote business professionals go, so that the money was there, so there was more shops and stores and things going on there. But now I'm seeing like all these other communities and areas, and because I mean you know how Jax is, it feels like there's multiple communities or cities within Jax. You know, it's like the Riverside downtown area, the beaches is its own thing.
Orange Park,
you know, exactly. So. It just feels like more of my friends in these different areas have more to do in their separate areas. And now I feel like more areas are starting to kind of commingle.
Which is fantastic, especially because you mentioned too the concerts. We actually have a better concert hall now, actually a legitimate one. The Jaguars was doing well. They were doing well last year. Like, oh my God, we were one game away from the Super Bowl, and now we're back. But besides that part, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised about the big changes Jacksonville's going through. And I moved back here probably 2 years ago. I'm still trying to find out, like, okay, where am I? What places to go to? What people meet? You okay?
Yeah. Wait.
All right, guys, we're back. We had to take a little short break. A little coughing fit.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell. I feel like a 5-year-old.
So, you go on vacation.
Yes. Yeah.
Where are you headed to?
Peru.
What?
Yeah.
What's in Peru? Besides some awesome temples.
A bunch of stuff. Not to name like it all. I mean, Machu Picchu, the Nazca lines, but nothing in particular. If you're thinking like family or friends or stuff, it's just my girlfriend has always wanted to go. Her birthday was earlier this month. She's never been out of country. She wanted to do something big for her birthday, so it was definitely high on her list because of those things. You know, Machu Picchu, the Nazca lines, rainforest, and all that. So, and I've never been to South America, so it's like that was kind of the appeal for it too.
Man, I haven't gone to South America either. I think the only place I've been to was Cozumel, Mexico.
Okay,
this is actually pretty cool. Nice, some legit Mexican food. So.
Yeah, Mexico City is like on my list this year to go. I've never been to Mexico as well, and so it's definitely high on my list of like trips for this year. Yeah,
I've been to Europe, the Caribbean, all over the United States. I think in the future is either going to be South Asia.
Okay, cool.
So the Cambodia, Taiwan, Vietnam, or South America.
Word. Okay. Yeah.
That's the next ones. Like, yeah, let me go. Only thing about me is like I'm a Hispanic, and we are talking about that earlier, but I don't speak Spanish, so it's like, yeah. I sometimes I lie. I tell people I feel bad about doing it, but
are you telling me you speak Spanish?
No, I tell them I'm Middle Eastern, just and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
So, I mean, if I'm being 100% with you, I thought you might have been.
Yeah.
Only because you look like some family I have back in Morocco. So, I'm sure you get it as well.
Yeah, a lot.
I'm hoping I'm not.
No.
Stretching.
Like I'll take it as an insult. No, because a lot of people think I'm either Indian, Middle Eastern, so any type of Middle Eastern, Italian. So it will be the Southern Italian, so Sicilian. They're darker.
So you just get stopped at TSA regardless.
No, surprised I have not got stopped at TSA yet.
Okay, word.
Yeah, like I tried to just to see what happens, but actually my friend, my friend's friend works as a TSA agent. Probably not now, but works as a TSA agent at Jacksonville Airport. And every time I go to the airport, he's always there. He's always working. So we say hi, and he kind of waves me through. But Like, man, no pat downs, nothing
Yeah, yeah.
scary.
Okay, word.
Except some people think I keep getting called lately Samoan. Yes, it's Samoan.
Yeah.
Samoan.
Like The Rock.
Yeah, like a rock.
You should take it.
Or
Run with it.
Or Jason Momoa. He's Samoan too.
I think so. I know. I'm not even gonna try to assume. I think so.
Yeah. Wait, what do you think about the Aquaman movie? Did you see it?
Yeah. I thought it was a fun movie. I mean, it's definitely nothing that it's like nothing I would watch again or pay to watch again. I think one time was good. It was just a little too long, man. And they had some really cool ideas and premises.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the execution, especially like the dialogue or the script, could have definitely used some work because there were just some jokes that just didn't land or things said that just like took me out of the moment,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So, but I mean, the premises and visually, it's definitely stunning.
Yeah, especially that climax scene, the fight scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Word. And there's that scene where he kind of jumps into the water with the trench creatures.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty.
Yeah, that was a badass scene.
Yeah, that was a great scene. Like, man, that's some. I was looking at it. I think it's a mixture of CGI and costumes for those creatures.
Okay.
But that was actually a pretty.
Yeah, there was like some really beautiful scenes. Like, it just visually, it was dope. It's just like all the other stuff was kind of some of the acting to me. Like I said, the voice or the dialogue just. I don't know, man. Some of it felt forced, or the jokes just were really flat. But it wasn't like a terrible movie. I mean, it's killing in the box office.
Yeah, it's like I think the reason why it's successful, I think primarily is because of the actor Jason Momoa.
Yeah, which is kind of I don't know. I guess I don't know enough about Jason Momoa. All I know from is Game of Thrones, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who think that's it. But I guess
he does some.
He's kind of been in the game for a minute.
Yeah, it's been around, but like it's really interesting just watching him as that character, and yeah, he made it his own. And I really like the fact that they brought back the original costume. But I was kind of afraid of that because like man, that would look very campy if they didn't do that right, and they did it right.
Yeah, they did it right.
It looked badass. Like it actually looks pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
Then that one scene, spoilers, but that one scene when he finally gets the trident. And he jumps into that war. He comes out with a Kraken,
Which, by the way, that Kraken came out into the middle of the battlefield, but it looked like it was more so on the crab people side.
Yeah, it looked
so
like
I was like, damn, you just killed like half of the
the people
the quote unquote good side. It's yeah.
But yeah, it was actually pretty cool.
But that's just Jason Momoa as Aquaman. He just is reckless.
He's over there with the freedom. The trident, with lightning coming out of it. Like, what the hell? It's underwater. Why is there lightning? Yeah, I saw that movie and the Spider-Man movie on the same day.
Okay.
And
the Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I thought that movie was a lot better. Better story wise.
Yeah, big time.
It was a lot better.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, that was an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Like, man, that was a good Michael Morales. It's a pretty good one. Then you had Nick Cage as
Spider-Man Noir.
And that was actually pretty funny dialogue.
You also had what's that dude's name? Is it Chris Pratt?
No, not Chris Pratt. Are you thinking? Which one are you thinking of? Which Spider-Man?
I'm thinking about Peter Parker that was in Miles Morales' world. He plays in
it's not Chris Pratt. It's
he plays in the Star Trek movies as
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, he was in Wonder Woman too.
Yep. So it was like the voicing was done great, and that's the cool thing is that I felt like the actors were humbled and okay with just voicing, and they knocked it out the park.
Yeah, and like that was probably the best because I saw The Incredibles too this year.
See, I wanted to see that, so I'm gonna have to just catch that like on a streaming service or something.
It was pretty good. Like that one, and the Spider-Man movie, probably the best anime movies I've seen this year.
Cool.
I know that sounds weird, adult watching cartoons, but like
not at all.
No, some of these movies, especially Pixar, I'll go watch them. They're just good movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they're making Toy Story 4, and I don't know, man. I'm not sure about that one. The third one was. Did you see the third one? Or
you know what, man? I that is still a movie I have not seen yet. Even though when it came out, I remember all my friends, even friends I would never expect to watch animated like movie. They were like really emotional about it.
Yeah,
I know. So I will probably watch that before I go see 4.
yeah. I remember getting emotional about that movie. I don't want to ruin it. The end. It was the ending, or the climax. I got really emotional. But yeah, they're making a 4th one. But what I heard Tom Hanks and Tim Allen talk about, they said like, yeah, they had to stop recording for the last lines because they kept crying.
Oh damn!
Because they said like it wasn't because that was going to be the last movie. It was because like they said like that it was actually pretty powerful what they're doing. Like man, they're crying in front of the directors.
Okay, wow. Shit.
I'm like, man, this is.
And that was kind of like the consensus I got from friends was that it was just you're gonna end up crying. Maybe that's why I didn't watch it. I didn't want to channel into that side.
Shit. All right, well, we're going to the question part of the interview because
I
know you don't have a lot of time. And you gotta get ready for your vacation. But for any new listeners and returning listeners, I'm just gonna give you a little update about these questions. I asked these questions towards the last half of the interview because these questions are psychological questions. They're supposed to show people the answers are supposed to show a different side of a person. They're open-ended. Some of them are fun. Some of them are serious. But they're all supposed to show a different side of a person that you really don't get to see. The reason why I ask these questions is because I really do believe that people's stories are important. And these questions help bring out that story more. And it helps people empathize with the people I'm talking with. So that's why I ask these questions. So let's get started. Given the choice of anyone in the world from any time period, who would you want as a dinner guest and why?
You know, I had peeked at that question when you I had peeked at that question on your notes, and I don't think I've ever had an answer for that, man.
Really? You're the first person I never had an answer.
I guess because I just have so many people in mind.
It doesn't have to be one.
No, I guess
top three.
I guess I'll just name some. And this might be a little topical and really recent, but Stan Lee would definitely be one. I've met him, twice at conventions, and he's just really fun to be around. He's like really charismatic, and he's everything in those movies. Like the way they portray him. I mean, it feels like it's him. I would love to have dinner with him just to see if he would drop that guard, if there is a guard to drop, if there's a character beneath the character, and just I guess kind of pick his brain about what it felt like creating this world, this world that so many people have become attached to and really resonate with. Like, I just want to know more about that impact, how he really feels about it. Because what we get is like that kind of cocky and like confident creator, but I want to know, like, has it really dawned on him? Like, what does he feel knowing that so many people worship some of his stories? That his stories tell the stories of so many other people. Yeah. So that's one. I would love to have dinner with Michelangelo. When I went to Rome one year for vacation, and I got to see the
Sistine Chapel.
Yes, thank you. I got to see the Sistine Chapel and a few of his other and a few of his other bodies of work, and I just got to learn just a little bit. Our tour guide was kind of giving us like a brief history about all the many things that he was doing, and he kind of sounds like the original hustler. Like, he was a painter, a sculptor, a scientist, a mathematician. Like, he just dabbled in so much.
Da Vinci too.
Yeah. So the
Renaissance men.
I would love to just kind of find out what was that spark? What was that drive? Because you see so many folks now kind of capitalize on that, promoting that mindset, promoting that personality. Mm-hmm. Those what would you call them? Like success speakers, just like speakers.
Motivational speakers.
Yeah, motivational speakers. Thank you. And they didn't have that back then. So where did that drive come from? Where did that sense of innovation and just being so fucking good at everything come from?
Well, I read a book about Da Vinci, and the last chapter they're talking about that. They were he was saying that there's always people like that. There's always in any set population, there's always going to be a person like that who is just drawn to different subjects and they can master the different subjects. They're not jack of all trades. They're like, oh, they actually mastered each one. I think a lot of it has to do with genetics.
Yeah.
The way you're raised also. And also distractions or how disciplined you are.
Well, I would hope in this dinner I could maybe get hopefully some of that rubs off on me, but that's definitely someone high on my list. And then I'm just gonna go on like the music side because I love hip hop and rap. I would absolutely be floored to talk to or have a dinner with Jay-Z. Just because I followed him throughout his career. He's definitely my favorite rapper of all time. And just looking at his story too, where, you know, he came from nothing. And on his first album, Reasonable Doubt, which is one of my all-time favorite ones, I feel like he kind of envisioned where he would be at. And he came out at a time where he was not a big deal. You know, a lot of people kind of overlooked his album or just overlooked him as a rapper, period, because there were so many other icons past him. But the way he talks and raps on his album is like, I'm already at where I'm at now, you know, where he's successful now. But he's always just kind of mastered being able to foresee the next trend or pushing the culture to the next trend. That I want to kind of pick his brain, how a kid from, you know, Marcy Projects ended up becoming, you know, a continuous contender for Forbes top 10 hip hop earning acts. You know, I definitely want to know how he was able to take what he learned growing up in these harsh conditions and make it.
Didn't he sell his first album out of the trunk of his car?
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah. I mean, he basically started his own record label and did his own promotion. So I mean, he had an uncanny drive. But I mean, a lot of rappers were doing that. But there was something sharp about Jay.
Yeah,
and he's just like, and at least in interviews, he just seems like a really like a personality, like very kind of quirky, very charming as well. But also, I just know there's a very sharp mind behind that.
Yeah, like for someone that doesn't have a formal education, he's extremely intelligent. Extremely.
Yeah. So I wouldn't mind those three. All right, Stan Lee, Michelangelo, and
Jay-Z. All right. What would constitute a perfect day for you?
I'll give you an example of a perfect day I've had, and I've had a few that could qualify, but one that kind of comes to mind. Me and a good friend were vacationing in Croatia, and I mean, it just seemed like the whole day was just like a sense of like we didn't really have plans. We kind of just went with the flow. We ended up like having like this awesome brunch at the seaside like cafe that we just kind of stumbled upon. We ended up kind of wandering the city and found like this kind of secluded beach that wasn't touristy at all, but it was gorgeous. And we just spent a lot of time there, went back to the city, kind of like got lost and found this like fucking taco spot in Croatia where they were some of the best tacos we've ever had in our life. And we ended up like finding this large group at this bar and we hung out with them the whole night. Like nothing about that day was like boring or difficult. It was like just a sense of like wonderment and ease. You know, it was like we had it all, like really good food, really good company, like a nature, you know, being at the beach and stuff. It was like by this like this cliffside and had all these trees. So it was like weird to be like in the water, but also having like a ton of trees around you. And it wasn't like a pond or a giant lake. It was like the beach. So that's kind of one that comes to mind. So I guess maybe the lesson is, or my perfect day is probably when I just don't have anything planned or I don't have a set plan and these great elements, food, people, nature kind of come into a great kind of amalgam.
Nice. Hopefully that cold goes away before
I don't know what's going on. I apologize to our listeners.
No, it's no problem. Hopefully it goes away before your vacation, though.
That's what I'm trying to do, man.
If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be?
Is my mom listening? Maybe. No, I mean, not even maybe. I mean, to answer your question, more opportunities to travel and do more stuff. Because as an adult, I mean, I think that's why I'm constantly on the go, constantly traveling. Because, I mean, it was situational too. I mean, I grew up in a very large household. I had, 4 brothers.
Oh, wow.
My dad was the only one working. My mom, being from another country, just didn't have the tools or the education to work. But she also wanted to commit herself to raising her kids. And just being at home for the kids and for the family, being that home body and that, just someone at home to take care of the house, take care of the kids, that structure. But that also meant that we couldn't do a lot of things that, other kids got to do, vacations. I mean, we did a road trip, here and there, but, we didn't really leave Jacksonville, even during the school year, we didn't, go on to these different spots or, get to do a lot of like common kind of like go to Disney and shit like that.
Oh, wow.
So maybe that, but like I said, I think it was just situational. There was no way they could afford that with that many kids, one income. They did the best they could. But if I had to really say something to change, maybe being exposed to more.
Yeah. Actually, a few people on the show had that same answer to Wes. And a lot, they don't blame the parents, but it's that.
No, absolutely not.
It's like, yeah, they wish they had more vacation, or not more vacation, more places to travel, see different.
Yeah,
see
just seeing
areas.
different stuff. Yeah.
Okay, since we talked about superheroes and all that good stuff, if you wake up tomorrow and gain any power ability, what would it be and why?
It's a combination between flight. Because I mean that'd be so wild.
Yeah,
to just and I'm saying like super speed flight. Like I don't want to like fly slow. I want to be able to fucking jet it. So I could do traveling on my own. You ever watch the movie Chronicle?
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I love that movie. Like I love. I don't. I'm sure it doesn't rank high on like the official list of really good movies. But for me, I love it. But there was those scenes where they were just flying and shit, and I think they were traveling. Hell, they went to like Tibet or some shit.
Yeah, the end of the movie he ended up in Tibet.
But it'd be between that, which that might be my answer, and also like telekinesis / telepathy. All right, you know what? Let me just say this. I just want to be in the movie Chronicle. I want the powers that they had in Chronicle, which was...
That was a really good movie. That's right there with Unbreakable, where like it was kind of the same kind of thing. Like, well, let's see what happens.
And it was during like that time period where it seemed like every movie you did the shaky cam.
Yeah.
It was like the third...
yeah, that's what I liked about it.
Me too. I thought it was a unique spin on a superhero. And it was really about the rise of a supervillain.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. So I think maybe that. Telekinesis, telepathy.
What was telepathy again? I know
telepathy is more. I mean, telekinesis, you move stuff with your mind.
Yeah.
Telepathy is more so like being able to read minds and stuff like that.
I don't know, man. I'm afraid about telepathy. Like if I had it,
I want it controlled like Professor X. You know how he's like just got that shit under control, and anytime he meets like new telepathic mutants or students, like they don't know how to control the power, so they're always hearing voices. I don't want that. I don't want to hear everyone's voices, but I wouldn't. And I guess it would be kind of weird privacy invasion thing going on.
Weird.
But I think it'd be interesting to know what people are thinking, because you know how it is. You don't ever know what's going on in someone's life.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Yeah, sometimes, I think just people are open books. You just gotta know how ask the right questions to open the page up.
Fair enough. That's a good point.
But sometimes we don't have the time, or even it's us too. We might be going through our own challenges. What if anything is too serious to be joked about?
I kind of subscribe to the kind of the usual, I guess, big two: religion, politics. I try not to joke around that because I know so many people that really invest in that, like how I invest in comic books and hip hop and podcasting. There are people who really invest in that, and those are real serious things. Those are not imaginative stories. Those are actual things that happen in the world. So I try not to make fun of that because those aren't really things that you make fun of. One is how our society is run, The other one is a belief system, and that's definitely something I try not to play with is people's belief systems.
Yeah, you gotta be careful about that, especially the belief system.
Yeah, I can find the humor in some of it, but I definitely wouldn't purposely try to like make really bad jokes. Like I would kind of think about my jokes if I was to be in a position to make a joke or humor out of those two.
Yeah, and if you are good at it, I think the only people who are really, really good at it is
Are
South
professionals.
Park. Well, yes.
Yeah, professional. I mean,
the
comedians. Your
Matt Stone, Trey Parker.
Yeah, exactly. Writers and stuff.
Right. But the ones who are really good at it are the ones that know, like, okay, if you're gonna make fun of one religion, you have to make fun of all, because then I'll be kind of like, it's not racist, but it is.
I think you just come off as uninformative, and your jokes aren't really based. Like, it's one thing to base your jokes on facts and find a unique, humorous take on it, but if you're not knowledgeable enough, I think your jokes kind of come off as in bad taste and just completely infactual.
Yeah. Yep, you're completely right about that. Okay, here's a deep question. When was the first time you fell in love, and how did it happen?
I guess the earliest example of that would be, I guess, like a high school sweetheart. I don't think I really felt those emotions for love until, I was, I think, a junior or senior in high school. And, I met like my first like real girlfriend. And it was like someone I wasn't even trying to pursue, just like a natural evolvement or evolution of our friendship, and she just liked me for who I was, with all these other girls I was trying to court in high school. I was trying to be someone I wasn't, but then there was this girl who thought I was really funny and, kind of saw past like this goofy demeanor, and just liked me for who I was. And that was really cool. And I just know that feeling I had, I definitely knew then it was different than anything else I got as far as attention from, any other girls.
First love.
Yeah.
What was the most terrifying moment in your life?
Oh man. Whew. I mean, I've had some like damn near scary, almost car crash, opportunities.
Really?
But I mean, who hasn't like almost like fucking felt like their life was flashing before their eyes on the road, especially in Jacks. But one that comes to mind for as one that I kind of like think about or kind of set the parameters is the first time I went skydiving. I just remembered,
man.
I just remember like really being damn near like petrified, like like to the point of like not being able to move, like and just doubting like everything, my decision to like be in this plane, like just really doubting and questioning like a lot. I was like, what am I doing? Like, you've really kind of set yourself up for something that you're not ready for. Like, it was like that sense of doubt so heavily weighing on me, and I almost became like like it was like a was that petrified, where you become like stone? What
Petrified, yeah.
I guess petrified is the word. Okay, yeah, like I was just so fucking scared. And I'm saying, like, we got on this rinky-dink plane too, and it was like just going higher and higher. And I mean, the higher we went, the more the plane like started shaking. Buildings on the ground started becoming like dots.
Oh my God.
And I just remember thinking, like, I can't do this. Like, really seriously, almost calling quits. Like, hey, I don't want to do this no more. Like, take me out of this plane, put me back on the ground. You guys can keep the money. And then when they opened up like the airplane window, which is just wild to see firsthand, and they tell you all this stuff, but it isn't until you experience it. And they open a fucking window or a door, really, the side of the plane, and you're in it, and you're like, what the hell? Like, any other situation, the flight crew would be panicking. The whole airplane would be panicking, but everyone's cool as shit.
It's like, oh, you need to get
except
out.
for you. And now they're edging you towards the edge of the plane, and they're counting down. And like, they actually recorded it. Because most, I think, skydive places will record you while you're doing it. And this is one of the few times I actually bought something like that, because just watching it was so funny to see the fear. In retrospect, being on the ground safely, it was really funny to see the look of absolute terror. And I mean like terror with a capital, all letters, terror in my eyes jumping out of that plane. That might have been the one of the shining examples of fear, of my being the most afraid I've ever been.
When you jumped out, were you attached to someone, or were you
Yeah,
yourself? Okay.
and that still wasn't enough because I was so scared I forgot about that. Like none of that meant anything to me.
Oh my god!
I mean, I was like bigger than the dude that I was attached to. I mean, he was like, kind of a smaller dude, and I was ready to like just overpower him and just like stick it out and just stay in the plane. But he managed to like get my ass out there.
Shit. What was the feeling when you actually jumped?
It was like chaotic. I think that's the best word. It was so much chaos, like because you're spinning so much. Like it's ground, air, plane. Like you just see so much shit, and your brain can't take it, and you're still screaming. Like it was straight chaos. And then eventually, like you kind of level out, and you somewhat calm down, and you realize, well, you know, I've been falling this far. I'm not dead, so I might as well
enjoy the ride.
Yeah, just kind of chill, you know.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think about doing it, but then like.
I mean, it was one of the most gratifying experiences after you level out and you're just calm, like and you land like because I went with a group and all of us were so hype and wanted to do it immediately again, but so much time has passed. Yeah. Like if someone was to recommend that and offer it, I would be so scared. Like I can sometimes I think about it and like, all right, would you do it again? Would you sit in a plane? And I just my heart starts racing. I'm like, oh, remember that time? You remember how you felt? So, yeah.
Damn. What are your deepest held beliefs?
I don't know if I can answer that, only because I think I would have to really kind of think about it to articulate it the way I'd like. Mm-hmm. But if I'm going off the top of my head, I mean, I definitely try to hold in high regard the power of you, you know, the power of yourself and what you can accomplish, and just by having a mindset that no matter what life throws at you, I don't want to become the victim. I don't want to make excuses for not being able to meet my goals. I mean, there's definitely circumstances that you know what I'm saying does not apply. You know, there's some people just in situations that are terrible and would require a lot more than just a positive mindset, but I've always kind of held in my belief, like having a positive mindset, looking at the world and goals and problems like one at a time, try to compartmentalize them and overcome them that way, as well as the power of just people, you know, like just being able to take in different beliefs and stories and life experiences and growing from that. Like growing up, I've always had older friends. Mm-hmm. Even now, you know, my friends are much older than me. You know, they have family, they have kids, and they've been through a lot. And I just like to learn from people. And I try to look at like people as, you know, like the human race as one species to learn from. You know, there's so many stories, so many things that we've accomplished as a species. Like I can be a contributing factor to that by having kind of like this mindset of like a go-getter, like overcoming obstacles.
When you mentioned that, I was thinking. I
don't know if that answered your question. Or I said, I feel like I could articulated that better.
That's actually probably it's probably one of the better answers I heard in a while. Yeah, because when you were talking about that, it reminded me of this line from Rocky, when Rocky Balboa says, "It doesn't matter how hard you can hit. It's
all about getting back up." Yeah.
Yeah, all matters is how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually believe something similar. Like, yeah, people kind of forget how powerful they can really be.
Yeah.
How much potential you really have. Like, I
think that's a good way to put it. Is I definitely have a high regard for the belief of like our potential as a single person, but also as, you know, a group of people, mm-hmm. also as, you know, a population, a human race.
Yeah, as a species, we did some incredible shit.
Yeah.
And the next step we're taking is Mars. Like it's actually going to happen. We are going to Mars.
Yeah.
It's like, man, we're doing it. We're going to a different planet.
Damn right.
Is there something you dreamed of doing for a long time, and why haven't you done it?
I kind of just maybe my own like kind of doubt creeping in. As much as I believe in our potential, I mean, I'm not immune to doubt or just being lazy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely just because I haven't committed enough to it. I don't believe in it enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely maybe my fault. I mean, I've always wanted to work for Marvel Comics, and I feel like I've built like this pathway to it. I just need to push more. I need to push harder.
Take that next step.
Yeah. Just keep identify what needs to be done and commit all to it.
Well, it's just like a good example of that would be let's say you're going to do a MMA match.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first thing you have to do before you try out is like, you need to work out. You need to go do your own training.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same thing. Then the next step will be like, all right, well, I'm going to go do the match now. Just like anything, just make your preparations first.
Yep.
What is your most treasured memory?
Hey, I don't know if I can answer that one. Only because it's just I'd have to give that one some thought. And I don't want to give you like a one that it's so easy for me to just kind of pick one that's
like
happened.
A fluff. Like,
one that's happened frequently.
Oh, okay.
But it's maybe I'm only recalling it because it's frequent.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to answer that. Maybe a very true one. I mean that Good Day story I told you about.
Yeah.
That's definitely one that I think because everything just lined up. That's one that right now I could give you. That skydiving one, as scary as hell as that one was, that's another one. But I mean, if we're gonna keep it, a comic book kind of, if we're gonna keep it comic book centric, the first time I met Stan Lee was definitely a memory that I kind of hold in high regard, and I got to meet him at a convention, and they had like a panel session, so you can line up and ask questions of Stan Lee. So I was like maybe 21, and I got up in line and I had like my book report with me because I think I kind of had this plan. I was like, I'm going to give him my book report, and I couldn't believe like I was actually in line going to do it. And I mean, when it got up to my turn, I got to say some words to him about what he meant, and how in college, no matter what paper assignment I got, I always wrote about comic books because I wanted to put an emphasis on what the culture meant. That it should be taken seriously, and he was a big inspiration for that. And I asked him if I could give him this college paper I wrote on him, and it was graded. I think it was like one of my first few A graded papers, and I got a chance to go up there, shake his hand, and give him the paper. That's definitely like one that, and I think I'm bringing it up because of Stan Lee's recent death. So I've been kind of thinking a lot about some of those moments and what comic books mean to me.
Well, comic books mean a lot of things to people, especially today. There's an article on a website that I wrote about Spider-Man, Batman, Wolverine, and I mentioned because I was thinking about this for a long time. I just think superheroes are just becoming the modern myth. Mm-hmm. I think in 200 years ago, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, like Thor. Like how we think of Thor today, like the mythology, than the comic. I think people want to think about like, oh yeah, there was a story about a man that dressed like a bat.
Yeah.
That went from city to city.
That's a unique perspective.
Like comics. I love comics. What's the biggest sacrifice you made?
I don't think I've made a sacrifice that I feel is worthy enough to note. And because I've got a prime example of someone who sacrificed all of it for me, and I'm talking about my mom. She sacrificed being around her family in Morocco. She sacrificed the opportunity to get a formal education, to get a job, to like kind of kickstart her own life and do her own things to raise us, to ensure that we didn't have to go through what she went through. when she was a kid, living in Morocco, or where we wouldn't have to worry about, supporting the family, or just being able to enjoy our childhood, and for me, that's with that example of sacrifice, I definitely don't feel like I've done anything to compare to that in my mind. So I'm using my mom's sacrifice, I guess, to answer your question.
I mean, parenting is tough, but like a mother got a hard job too.
Oh yeah, especially with like 5 knucklehead boys.
What? All right. So the last question, and this is a question I ask everyone. This is a very it's a deep question, and it's also a 2-parter question.
Hit it.
What's the worst thing you've ever done in your life, and what is the best thing you've ever done in your life?
Worst thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, as a kid, I was just a serial liar. Like I just lied like a lot. For some reason, like trouble and the truth, like were kind of synonymous with me. If I told the truth, I'd get in trouble because I just was doing mischievous shit.
Diabolical.
So, I mean, there's probably a lot of examples of where my little lies hurt someone, emotionally. I don't think I was never like could physically hurt anyone. I was like way too scrawny, but I think I've those lies have accumulated, and this is as a kid especially, and they would just hurt my mom. I just remember a lot of times like I thought I was getting away with an elaborate lie, and they would always hurt my mom. She was just always about honesty, and no matter what you do, I got your back because I've sacrificed so much. I want to be able to continue helping you, but there was a lot of times where my lies caused her to cry in front of me. So I'd probably say that. And the best things I've ever done is just making her proud. I still feel like I have a lot more to do, and there's a lot of things I want to accomplish, but just being able to have a sense of like, you sacrificed all of this. This is me showing you that your sacrifice was not in vain. Just being able to be a supporter if she ever needed it, or just being there for her. I think that's probably the best thing I've ever done outside of all my other, accomplishments in life, job, podcast, personal, social life. I think that's probably been the best thing I've done. Man, that's actually that's a really good one. I appreciate it. One time I could, yeah.
Yes.
Now these are some pretty deep questions, man. These are good. I do a comic book and pop culture podcast. We don't really get like this deep, especially with our personal lives. So it's kind of cool to be able to look into myself and answer these questions.
Yeah, that's why I like because I feel like the first half is kind of like a
warm up.
Yeah, kind of like a warm up. We get to know each other. We talk about interesting stuff about the person I'm interviewing. Like today we talked about comics and movies, so we did the little geek thing. Then the last half I like because like, okay, the warm up's over. Let's get to know the person. And I can only say, I don't want to ruin the episode, but there's only one episode where I felt like, man, she had nothing interesting to say. Everyone else, like I think you're number 37 or 38. Everyone else had like something really something to bring to the table. Like, wow, I never seen it from that point of view, or they told me something like, wow, like that's actually a very beautiful thing they told me.
Yeah, it's power of podcasting, man, just storytelling and just talking to people. Everyone's got a pretty unique story.
Yeah, if you ask the right questions.
Yep.
All right, tell everyone where they can find your podcast and the website, all that good stuff.
No, I appreciate it. We're on most podcasts and streaming services. All you got to do is just search The Short Box. It's usually 3 letters is how it shows up on most podcast platforms. But we're also on social media, so Facebook, Twitter. Yeah.
So got to take this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, I'll put it on the website,
too.
Thank
you. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, if you search The Short Box Jacks or Short Box Jacks. And we're also on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, Spotify. So wherever you get podcasts, if you search The Short Box, look for the Infinity Gauntlet logo with the microphone, and that's us.
Yep, and I'll put the website and the podcast information on this episode's description, so it'll make it easier for you guys to find them.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for doing this.
Oh, no, pleasure.
Thank you for letting me use your equipment too.
Oh, yeah, podcasters, man. We got to look out for one another.
All right, guys. Don't forget to check out the website, ataboolife.com, where you can read some interesting articles, short stories, poems, and prose, because I am that sappy. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the show. And also, if you really like the show, I just set up a donation and tips. I want to keep the show ad-free because I want to be able to do things freely without worrying about somebody haggling me, sponsors haggling me. So if you really liked it, leave $1 tip, leave $2. You don't have to leave that much. It's very easy. Go to the website ataboolife.com and press on the link donations and tips. Thank you guys again for listening. I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll talk to you later.